Hey guys, it's the Bitcoin Barbie, and I'm sitting here with James Stevens, CEO of Krown Technologies. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for setting this up with me. So this is my first time actually hearing about Castle wallets. You guys are, I don't know if you're new on the scene, but definitely you're stealing the spotlight here today at Bitcoin 26. Talk to me a little bit about Castle Wallet.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride. So it's a year ago, nearly this week, we were at Bitcoin 25 and we were walking down the hallways, knocking on doors, grinding, we were brand new, never known. And then what a difference a year makes, right? You grind, you hustle that whole year and you're building something for the future. And now here we are, one of the premier sponsors. We locked down a 6-year exclusive deal with Bitcoin and Futures Conference, all the other ones. So Castle's really come onto the scene because Castle was built from the foundation up for the future. I've been in this industry for almost 10 years now, and I've seen and actually been a victim of the theft and the hacks and things like that. And so for me, it was really about, okay, go back to the drawing board, look at what the problems are, and look at what is on the horizon and address those. And so then we, knowing that quantum was going to be an issue, my friend Dr. Francis Bolito, the head of Quantum Emotion, we got together, formed a partnership, and then built the wallet from the ground up with multiple levels of post-quantum encryption. So yeah, and we are new, but we've definitely made a splash now. So
absolutely. I mean, you guys are all over this conference, like you said. You guys are the main sponsor here. I think it's awesome. You guys are taking the bull by the horns. Yeah. Obviously, it's a nice little crypto quip. But where do you think Castle Wallet is going, and how important do you think it is for us to be on top of this now?
Yeah, so I always talk about the timeline and how the timeline is really sped up on Q-Day. And it wasn't that long ago, it was the 2040s, 2050s that they were talking about, and now we're down into this decade, 2029, even 2028, I personally think. So I think with what's approaching, it's extremely important that we have products like Castle, that can address these issues, at least in storing the value, right, and having them in the wallet. But I do see Q-Day happening as quickly, sooner than all of us really think. And so that plays into my two acronyms for my company, ROI and ROE. One's rate of innovation, and the other one's rate of execution. Both of those are key if you're going to live and breathe and prosper in this quantum age. Yes,
absolutely. And even with the phase of AI and all of this coming in, like you said, like quantum is happening faster than I agree with you, than what we expected, right? It's almost slow then fast and faster, and now we're like moving. I was just speaking about this, how humans, right, we only work at this rate, but now with AI it's like it's moving at an inhumane speed. And we're trying to catch up and play with it, and so now we're working faster, which, like you said, it's kind of like the compounding time travel here.
It really is, but that's like, for our, so Krown Network is the builder of Castle, but Krown Network is a layer 1 quantum chain. It's actually a quantum secure chain, and with the help of AI and AI built into our quantum defenses, it really did accelerate the development, accelerate the understanding, but it also accelerated the vulnerabilities that we were able to see, right? And things that humans would have not found for years. So you're right, yeah, no, definitely. But I agree. Everything is moving so fast with AI, and Castle and Krown is no different, along with anyone else here that's using AI. So, yeah.
It's interesting. So can I ask you, how many downloads do you guys have already?
Man, okay, Peter, he's our CMO, Peter would know, but I know we've gotten thousands in the last 30 hours or so, 36 hours, so that's good. And the big thing was when we first started out, we recently launched it, and then did an update too as well. But when we first started out, everything was grassroots. It was like, there was nothing paid, there was nothing, it was just all organic, and we had maybe 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 downloads. But people started getting traction because people want to see where the value is and where the differentiators are, right? And so Castle's really starting to finally, distance itself and differentiate itself from a lot of the other ones. So,
do you just service the Bitcoin blockchain, or do you have other coins or chains that are coming on?
Multi-chain.
Multi-chain?
Like right now, we've built in natively, we've got Solana, we have Base, we've got Ethereum, BNB, Krown's network, Bitcoin. So a lot of the majors there, we'll have top 25 in there. So yeah, and that's important, right? You don't want to like corner yourself to like just Ethereum or whatever, but yeah. So we made sure to do that for sure. And the thing about it is you can come from a chain that's not secured, that's not quantum secured or built for quantum age, but you can drop those coins, those assets into Castle, and it is secure. The chain might not be, right? But the wallet is. So
interesting. And let's talk a little bit about fees, if you don't mind, because obviously you guys are offering a premium service here. Are we looking at high fees, mid? Where are we at when it comes to transacting?
Yeah, nearly very low on the fees, and very fast transaction times as far as like on your move out, move in, so your inflow, outflow. But the fee that's charged, the subscription that's charged, $9.95 a month, and I think it's $99 a year what we're charging. So what that does is it helps us because the quantum protection in itself, it's not free. You know, we have to continue to pay for that protection. So what we do is we pass that on in order to be able to cover our expenses and then make profits to continue the development. So.
Okay. Do you guys host NFTs? Like, can you find your NFTs in your wallet? Is that something that we're at?
Yeah, we're right at the point of updating to where you can host the NFTs in the wallet. You can also mint, things like that. So there's a lot going on with it, but we have to be really careful about how we do the development because it's different than what we even knew. You know, we had to learn on the go. We didn't know what we were doing as far as what we were getting into. We knew how to build blockchains, we've done that. But when you're trying to introduce AI and quantum and chains all together, it's a whole new arena, right? And so we're slowly building it out, always testing it, so there's definitely more coming out.
It's definitely a learning experience. I feel like everything in this industry is like, well, let's just try and see and make it happen. Interesting.
Yeah. But we wanted it to be more than that. We wanted it to be more, we've tried out a lot, and we have, but we really took note and took stock of like, let's be honest with ourselves. Let's say, where did we fail? You know, where were our strong points out, but where were the weakest points at so we can address those? And that's what Castle really represents.
Right, is you're exploiting the vulnerabilities, but also finding ways to protect the user. So with Castle Wallet, because you have the subscription side of things, do you have like KYC involved, or is this full self-custody?
Full self-custody, yep, full self-custody. Now obviously that changes with regard to compliance whenever we're talking about what we want to do is the on and off ramping, things like that. So we will eventually at one point, you know, and we may have to have the KYC going with that, right? But we have partners that are already AML and in their compliance that we're talking to right now. We're about to make an announcement for that will really help us with railing. So well, I'm looking forward to that. That'll help out.
It's important, right, at the end of the day, to have some sort of compliance in certain aspects. And I guess if you guys are doing the subscription base, talk to me a little bit more about what that looks like. Why subscription? Why did you choose that model and not just like a fee-based model?
You talking about for Castle? Okay, so subscription, it's ongoing for us. All of our costs are ongoing. So for us, it was like, sometimes people may want to, and we've had people do this where they say, maybe they don't understand the quantum protection and they just think like it's another wallet, right? But the thing is like I said, what I always say is we only know what quantum's going to allow us to know, because every time there's some new article out or some new breakthrough, it's brand new and it changes what we know about the threat landscape and things like that. So a lot of people don't really understand that, so there's a lot of catching up to do with them, so they may just want to cancel out. So we offer them that month, right, to be able to do the month, or the annual, or whatever they want to do.
So is there a way that you guys can connect to, let's say, something like Ledger, or do you have plans in the future of kind of coming out with something like a Ledger of your own?
Yes, and yes. So we have a cold wallet that's coming out, it's called Excalibur, and that's due out next year. We want to put that out, and that's really in concert with our partners at Quantum Emotion. So they're the co-developers of Excalibur with us, and it is the world's first actual quantum secured, full stack quantum secured cold wallet. So we're working on that right now. And then with regard to like, being able to transfer or the connectivity with cold wallets, the answer for Castle is yes. In fact, just the other day, I think it was last night, someone wrote, yes, I just transferred this into my Castle wallet. So it was like, good. We love seeing the ability to do that.
I think that the idea of privacy, but also security, right, in this industry is very touchy, because a lot of people have been kind of sold this idea that Bitcoin is completely private when it's in reality very much so not, right? So what steps do you guys take for like maintaining that privacy if that KYC comes on board? Who has access to that KYC? And obviously it's now tracked to a ledger, so let's kind of get into that if you don't mind.
Yeah, great question. So you have to always balance, as with any wallet, any company out there, you have to balance the security of your clients and your customers with their privacy, right? But you also have to be in compliance and think about, if you're going to stay in business, you need to be in compliance, right? So what we do is we take the approach of, let's look at who right now has all of the AML compliance, KYC structure, the infrastructure all set to go, and then let's see how we can work with them and what their level of disclosure is. And we only would work with someone, if it ever reached that point, we would only work with someone who gave the least amount as possible, in that way. But it also depends on demand. If the demand reaches a feverish pitch of where, they don't care about the AML side of it or the KYC side of it, they want to be able to on-ramp, off-rail, on-ramp, off-ramp, and do that, all those types of things that trigger that compliance requirement, then we have to listen to the people. You have to listen to the people. So if that's what they want, we'll probably end up doing that. If they don't, and we'll poll and poll and poll and poll. But if they don't, and then we won't do that. We'll keep it so.
Right. How do you think that the Clarity Act will affect, if anything, what Castle is doing?
I think it provides that roadmap. I think it gives everyone, not just Castle, but it gives everyone in the sector, in the industry, that direction and that clarity that it needs, right? And so it helps us follow those compliance and those regs and everything that we need to know and look at. That way we can always be in compliance. And we can also look at that and go, okay, here's our compliance world, our ecosystem. This is what we can do with, and this is what we can't do, and everything like that. And then, you work within that realm, and you go from there. And if there's something you don't like, or something that's really you see is going to cause a problem or a bottleneck, I know a lot of state representatives. I know a lot of, I know senators and reps, national reps. So, get on the phone with them. I sit on different councils, subcommittees, things like that. So, the Texas Blockchain Council is a great one. You can start talking to the legislatures and getting that conversation going, because they can do a little amendments to an act, or they can do, there's certain things that can be applied.
Right.
So,
yeah. I think lobbying, especially as a founder, is massively important, right? And especially when you guys are jumping into something that not many people have touched yet, right? Like, that puts you guys in a position to either be very much involved in the setting for regulation around that sector. So I'm happy to hear that you guys are heavily involved in lobbying, and I think it's important. I think a lot of people in this industry that aren't founders, right, they're just using things and like, oh wait, this is happening with crypto, but I think that what people don't really realize is that lobbying is massive right now, and it's our responsibility as Bitcoiners, cryptoers, to do that.
It's almost like a sovereign oath that we take as founders or as C-level execs, where our clients and our customers, our people who believe in us and support us and download our apps or whatever, it's beholden upon us to make sure that they are the safest, that they're taken care of, that they're always informed. Transparency is huge for us. You must be transparent and honest and have some integrity in how you run your business. Those are all huge things that you don't see. This sector has lacked that for so long, and the stigma has been so bad. I get people that come in all the time that want to invest in Krown, or they want to buy Krown coin, or they want to download the wallet, and they don't at first, and they think it's a scam because we're so transparent about everything, and they're like, well, I think that's probably a lie, or whatever. And it's sad. It really is sad.
It's wild, and it's interesting, right? Because with something like the Clarity Act, it's almost like we're running towards that transparency and that, okay, this is what this is, and we need those boundaries, we need those guidelines in place. But at the same time, it's kind of counterintuitive to the entire, thesis of what crypto came to be. So definitely towing that line, I think, is something, we talk about this in spaces all the time. It's like, where's how much do we want to give, but also how much do we need, and what do we lose with what we need, right?
Where's that threshold, and how are we going well past that? And if we are, how do we know that? Do we, it's all about your people, knowing your people, knowing what the world wants, knowing what the holders want. That's why we're always in touch with our people.